The rain had stopped hours ago, but the land still smelled of thunder. The canyon below lay bruised and trembling, its narrow walls weeping with the last drops of the storm. Eli Boone guided his horse along the rocky ridge, one hand on the reins, the other gripping the old cavalry coat that clung to his shoulders like a second skin. His boots and saddle were soaked, his breath misted in the cold dusk air. He hadn't meant to ride this far. There were no cattle to check, no fences left to mend. Truth was, he just couldn't stand the silence of his cabin anymore. The walls had begun whispering again, voices that sounded like his wife's laughter, his boy's cough in the night. He'd left before dawn, saying he needed to scout the ridge, but he was really just chasing ghosts. The sun broke through at last, a pale orange light bleeding across the hills. Eli squinted ahead, where the trail wound between slick boulders and sagebrush beaten flat by wind. That was when he saw something out of place, a scrap of color caught against the dark rock below. At first he figured it was a piece of torn cloth from a traveler's pack, maybe a blanket carried off by the storm. But when the shape moved, just barely, something inside him tightened. He pulled the reins. The horse snorted and tossed its head, uneasy. Eli swung down, his boots sinking into the wet sand. He slid down the slope, mud smearing the knees of his trousers, until he reached the shadowed hollow where the thing lay. It wasn't cloth. It was a woman. She was half buried in gravel and leaves, her long black hair plastered to her face, her skin the color of warm earth beneath the blood and dirt. Her dress, what was left of it, was torn at the seams, the beadwork broken but still beautiful, even covered in mud. Feathers, bright once, now wilted and gray, clung to the hem. For a long moment, Eli just stood there, jaw locked, breath shallow. He'd seen too many bodies in his time, men lost in war, his own wife gone pale with fever, his boy stiff and small in the sheets he couldn't bear to burn. He didn't want another to bury. But then the woman's chest moved, a faint, stubborn breath. "Damn," he muttered under his breath, the first word he'd spoken all day. He crouched beside her. Up close, she looked young, but not fragile. There was strength in the lines of her jaw, even in pain. Scratches and bruises covered her arms, her ankle was swollen, and a deep gash bled along her side. She wasn't dead yet, but she would be soon if he walked away. He looked at her face, at the stillness of it, and something in his chest twisted. The part of him that had once believed saving someone mattered. He wanted to walk off, tell himself it wasn't his fight. But the truth was, he'd been trying to outrun that same decision for years. Eli slid his rifle over his shoulder and slipped his arms beneath her. She was light. Too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her head fell against his chest, hair smelling faintly of smoke and rain. His horse shied as he approached, ears twitching at the scent of blood, but Eli hushed it with a steady hand. "Easy, boy," he whispered. "We're not leaving her out here." He lifted the woman onto the saddle, careful to keep her steady. Then he swung up behind her, his arm around her waist to hold her upright. She didn't stir, didn't speak, just breathed, faint but real. The ride back was slow. The canyon trail was slick, and the air hung heavy with the ghost of the storm. Eli's mind drifted, back to the night Martha died, to the sound of Jacob coughing in the next room. He remembered begging God for mercy, though he hadn't prayed since the war. When dawn came that day, both were gone. He'd buried them behind the cabin and stopped talking to anyone but his horse. Now here he was, carrying another broken soul home, like the fool he swore he'd never be again. The sky turned to gold and gray as he rode. Coyotes called in the distance. The woman shifted once, a small sound catching in her throat, then fell silent again. Eli tightened his hold without thinking. "You hang on," he said quietly. "You ain't dying out here." By the time the first light from his cabin flickered through the trees, night had already swallowed the valley. Eli's jaw ached from clenching. His back burned from the ride. Still, he kept going. The cabin sat at the edge of a clearing, smoke from the chimney curling thin against the stars. He dismounted, cradled the woman in his arms again, and kicked open the door. The room smelled of pine, smoke, and the stew he'd eaten alone the night before. He laid her on the narrow bed, the one he hadn't touched since he dug those graves. For a moment he just stood there, staring down at her, rain dripping from his hair. "What the hell am I doing?" he whispered. But when her breathing hitched, shallow and broken, instinct took over. He stripped off his wet coat, hung it on the peg by the door, and filled a basin with water from the jug. He tore a clean shirt into strips, dipped one in water, and wiped the dirt and blood from her face. She flinched once, a weak sound escaping her lips, but she didn't wake. Eli worked slow and steady, binding her wounds as best he could. His hands were rough, made for axes and rifles, not this. But somehow, they were steady. When he finished, he sat back on the edge of the table and stared at her. The fire crackled in the stove. Outside, the wind rattled the shutters. Inside, the silence was thicker than any he'd known in years. He thought about leaving her there come morning. Ride to town, tell the sheriff, let someone else deal with it. But as he watched her chest rise and fall, faint but steady, he already knew he wouldn't. He poured himself a cup of coffee gone cold and sat near the stove, boots still muddy, rifle leaning against the wall. Every sound, the tick of the fire, the slow breath from the bed, felt louder than the storm itself. His eyes drifted toward her dress again. The beadwork, the feathers. Apache. He'd fought their kind once, years back. Not because he wanted to, but because war didn't care who was right. Now here he was, tending to one, alone in a cabin haunted by his own mistakes. He ran a hand down his face, exhaling through his teeth. "Your trouble," he murmured. "God help me. Your trouble." The night stretched on. Sometime near dawn, he must have dozed in the chair, because when the first pale light touched the window, he woke with a start. The fire had burned low. The woman lay still, but not lifeless. He rose, his joints stiff, and crossed the floor. She stirred slightly, eyes flickering open for the first time. They were dark, deep as the canyon he'd found her in, and sharp with confusion. She tried to sit up, pain stealing her breath. "Easy," he said, voice low, gravelly from sleep. "You're safe." She stared at him, silent, as if measuring the truth in his words. He poured her a cup of water, held it out, but she didn't take it. Only watched him with the suspicion of someone who'd been hunted too long. "It's just water," he said. "Ain't gonna hurt you." At last she reached out, her hand trembling. She drank slow, cautious. When she finished, she handed the cup back without a word. "You'll need food soon," Eli said, glancing toward the shelf where dried venison hung. She said nothing, just turned her face away. He sighed, sitting back down by the fire. "Fine," he muttered. "We'll talk when you're ready." Outside, the wind howled one last time before settling into quiet. Inside, the cabin held its breath. Two strangers bound by a storm neither had asked for. Eli leaned back in his chair, staring into the flames. He told himself it was just for the night. Come morning, he'd figure out what to do. But deep down, he already knew. He couldn't leave her. Not this time. Morning came slow over the canyon, pale and cold. The storm had left everything washed clean. The trees glittered with dew, the air smelled like wet cedar and smoke from Eli Boone's cabin stove. Inside, the fire hissed low, throwing a soft orange glow across the wooden walls. Eli moved quietly, careful not to wake the woman sleeping on his bed. Her breathing was steadier now, not as shallow as last night. He had rewrapped her wounds before sunrise, and though his hands were rough, they worked with the same patience he once used on his boys' wooden toys, long ago. He poured a bit of water into the tin basin, washing the dirt from his face. His reflection in the ripples looked older than he remembered. Gray stubble, tired eyes, the weight of too many winters behind him. Behind him, a faint sound broke the silence. The rustle of fabric. He turned. The woman was awake, propped up on one elbow. Her hair spilled across her shoulders like black silk, tangled from sleep. Her eyes, dark and sharp, watched him closely. "You're awake," he said. She didn't answer, just studied him as if deciding whether to trust the shape of his face. He moved slowly toward the table, poured water into a tin cup, and held it out to her. "You should drink. Storm took a lot out of you." For a long second, she didn't move. Then, with effort, she lifted her hand and took the cup. Her fingers were scraped and swollen, but her grip was steady. She drank, eyes never leaving his. When she finished, she set the cup down and turned her gaze toward the fire. "You got a name?" he asked. No answer. Only the sound of rainwater dripping from the eaves outside. "Didn't think so," he muttered, half to himself. "Fine, don't talk." He cut a strip of venison jerky from the hanging rack, laid it on a plate, and slid it across the table toward her. "You'll need something in your stomach. Ain't fancy, but it'll keep you upright." She looked at the food, then at him again. Her eyes said what her mouth didn't. "Why are you doing this?" Eli leaned against the counter, arms crossed, the light catching the scar on his forearm. "You can eat, or you can stare. Either way, you're staying put till that leg heals." Her expression didn't soften, but she reached for the food and took a careful bite. That was something. Eli took it as a sign to get on with his chores. He stepped outside, boots sinking into the damp ground. The air still smelled of rain and sage. He hauled water from the well, split kindling, checked the corral fence. The same routine he'd done every day since Martha and Jacob passed. But today, something felt different. There was another heartbeat inside his home. When he came back, the cabin looked changed. The woman, still nameless, had pulled herself upright, sitting near the fire. She'd managed to straighten her torn dress, folding the beadwork neatly over her lap. Her face looked pale but alive, her jaw set with quiet defiance. He nodded toward her. "Feeling any better?" Her eyes flicked up. "Better," she said softly, her voice raw, as though the word scraped against her throat. "Good, that's something." He poured himself coffee, black and bitter, and sat across from her at the table. For a long stretch, neither spoke. The fire popped. The wind brushed against the walls. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was thick, alive, like both were listening for what the other wouldn't say. Finally, she asked, "Why did you bring me here?" Eli looked up, surprised by the sound of her voice. "Because you were dying in the dirt," he said simply. "Couldn't just leave you." Her brow tightened. "You don't know who I am." "Don't reckon it matters right now." Her gaze sharpened. "It might." Eli took a slow sip of his coffee, eyes steady on her. "Then you can tell me when you're ready. I don't ask questions till folks can stand." She didn't answer, but he saw something flicker behind her guarded look. A hesitation, maybe even gratitude. The rest of the morning passed quiet. She drifted in and out of sleep. Eli fixed the broken hinge on the door, sharpened his axe, and whittled a small piece of wood into something that looked like it might have been a horse. He wasn't sure why. Habit, maybe. By late afternoon, the clouds had cleared, and the light pouring through the window cut across the room in stripes of gold. The woman stirred again. Her lips moved as if to speak, but only a whisper came. Eli stood, knelt beside the bed, and offered her more water. She took it this time without hesitation. "Thank you," she murmured. He nodded once. Don't mention it. When she tried to shift her leg, she winced. He noticed. That ankle's a mess, he said. You'll need a few days for it'll carry you again. I won't stay long. He let out a dry laugh. That's what everyone says when they need help. She gave him a look that could have cut through stone, but he just grinned faintly and went back to tending the fire. That evening, Eli cooked beans in the iron pot and sliced bread that had gone hard around the edges. He set a plate on the table for her, another for himself. For years, there had only been one plate, one chair. Seeing two made something ache inside him. Old, but not dead. He watched her from across the firelight. She sat carefully, her injured foot stretched out, the shadows painting her face with a quiet strength. You from the canyon? He asked. She shook her head. Farther south. Got folks out there? Her lips pressed into a line. I did. The way she said it told him enough. He didn't push. They ate in silence. The kind of silence that carried understanding. When they finished, she set her plate aside, then reached across the table and pushed half her bread back toward him. For you, she said. He blinked. I gave it to you. I know, she replied softly, but you've done enough. The gesture hit him harder than he'd expected. It had been years since anyone tried to share anything with him. Keep it, he said, voice low. You'll need it more than me. For the first time, a hint of a smile crossed her lips. Barely there, gone in a heartbeat, but real. Later that night, the wind rose again, whispering through the pines. Eli lay on the floor near the stove, his rifle propped within reach. She slept on the bed, her breathing steady. He could hear the faint creak of the boards under her shifting weight, the occasional sigh that broke through her dreams. He stared at the rafters, eyes heavy but mind awake. He thought about the graves outside, about promises made to no one but himself. He'd told God and the earth that he was done carrying the weight of others. And yet, there she was, a stranger, a wounded woman with eyes like dark water. He turned his head slightly. She was facing him now, even in sleep. Her hand had slipped from the blanket, fingers curled slightly toward the edge of the bed. For a moment, he imagined reaching out, just to touch, just to know she was real. But he didn't. Instead, he whispered to the shadows, "Don't make me regret this." The fire crackled softly, answering with warmth instead of words. By dawn, the world was wrapped in fog. Eli rose first, as always. He checked the horse, hauled water, split more wood. When he came back inside, she was awake, sitting up straighter this time. Her face looked stronger, more alive. "You're up early," he said. "So are you," she replied. Her voice was still hoarse but steadier. He smiled faintly. Old habit. She watched him as he poured coffee, as if she were trying to read the man beneath the quiet. After a long pause, she said, "You live alone?" "Yeah," he answered. "Used to be different." She didn't ask more, but the silence that followed was kind, like she already knew what he meant. Eli set 2 tin cups on the table this time, one for himself, one for her. It felt strange, but right. As the morning light spilled across the cabin, he caught her looking toward the window, where the graves rested beneath 2 wooden crosses. Her gaze lingered there a long moment. When she finally turned back, her eyes met his. "You've buried much," she said softly. He nodded once, the movement slow, heavy. Enough to last a lifetime. Neither spoke again. But in that silence, something shifted. The air felt different. Less like 2 strangers trapped by circumstance, more like 2 souls beginning to see the same road ahead. Outside, the fog began to lift, revealing a day clear and wide as the land itself. Inside, the fire burned steady, and for the first time in years, Eli Boone didn't feel entirely alone. By the 3rd morning, the fog had thinned and the sun spilled gold across the valley. The storm's memory lingered in the air, a damp chill clinging to the pine trunks and the sound of dripping water off the eaves. Eli Boone woke early, as he always did. Habit, not peace, got him out of bed. He brewed coffee, its smell filling the cabin like a promise. The woman, Ayanna, though he still didn't know her name, was sitting upright now, wrapped in one of his old wool blankets. Her skin had lost the gray pallor of fever, though her ankle was still bound tight. She looked stronger, but her eyes carried a weight that didn't come from pain alone. "You sleep any?" Eli asked, handing her a steaming cup. She nodded slightly, both hands cupping the tin for warmth. "Enough?" He sat across from her, chair creaking under his weight. "You healin' fast," he said. "Must be stubborn. I've had practice." The corner of his mouth twitched into something that might have been a smile. "Good. You'll fit right in." They drank in silence for a while, watching the fire eat through the last of last night's logs. Outside, a hawk cried from the ridge. "Storm's gone," Eli said. "You could walk a little today. Fresh air helps." Ayanna looked toward the door, then back at him. "How far are we from town?" "Half a day's ride, maybe less. But that road ain't safe for folks who look like you." Her eyes narrowed. "And what do I look like to you?" Eli met her gaze without flinching. "Like someone men would hunt." That landed between them like a knife. Ayanna looked down, tracing her fingers along the edge of her cup. "You've seen them," she said finally, voice quiet. He frowned. "Seen who?" "The riders," she whispered. "Men who follow the river north. They wear dust-colored coats, carry old army rifles. If you've heard them, you'd know the sound, like wolves in dry grass." Eli leaned back in his chair. "Heard something up on the ridge yesterday. Figured it was hunters." Her eyes lifted to his, sharp and sure. "Not hunters. Bounty men." The word sank deep into Eli's chest. He'd seen that kind of men before, the kind who didn't ask names before pulling triggers. "You running from them?" he asked. Ayanna hesitated. "They took me from my people," she said. "Said I was worth something alive. More if I was handed over to the army." Eli's jaw clenched. "You an outlaw?" "No." Her voice was steady now, low but proud. "My father is Chief Red Hawk. Those men think they can trade my blood for land and favors." For a moment, neither spoke. The fire cracked between them, the only sound in the room. Eli looked away first, his eyes falling on the window. "You should have told me sooner. Would it have changed what you did?" He thought about it, rubbing his thumb along the rim of his cup. "No," he said finally. "But I'd have slept lighter." Ayanna let out a dry, humorless laugh. "You already do." He couldn't argue that. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying a faint sound, the distant rhythm of hooves. Eli froze, head tilted. "You hear that?" Ayanna's grip tightened around the cup. "They found the trail." Eli stood, crossed to the window. Far off, barely visible through the trees, a thread of dust hung in the air. "Damn," he muttered. "Can't be more than 2, maybe 3. "They won't stop," she said. "They'll come until I'm gone." Eli's hand went to the rifle propped by the door. "Then they'll find more than they came for." Ayanna stared at him, something unreadable flickering in her eyes. "You don't have to do this. If they see me here, they'll kill you." He loaded a round into the chamber with a sharp click. "I've been ready to die a long time, miss." The wind outside picked up, rattling the shutters. He moved through the cabin with practiced calm, checking the door latch, setting another log on the fire, then drawing a second rifle from the rack above the bed. He handed it to her. "Can you shoot?" Ayanna looked at the weapon, then at him. "I was born in the desert. I can shoot." "Good." They waited. The silence between them wasn't the same as before. It was tight, alive with the sound of 2 heartbeats beating faster. By noon, the hoofbeats were gone, swallowed by the wind. Maybe the riders had passed by, maybe not. But the shadow of danger hung over the cabin like a low storm cloud. Ayana stood by the window, watching the horizon. They won't stop for long. Eli poured himself another cup of coffee, though his hands shook slightly. Then we don't give him the chance. She turned to him. You mean to run? He shook his head. I mean to stay. Why? Eli looked at her, and for a long time, he didn't answer. Then he said softly, Because I already buried enough. Her gaze held his, unflinching. Then she said, You'll regret it. Maybe, he replied, but I'll regret leaving you more. Outside, thunder rumbled again, not from the sky, but from the ridge, where the faint echo of hooves returned. Eli's stomach tightened. He crossed the room, checked the rifle's sights, and blew out the lamp. Get away from the window, he said. They'll see the fire. Ayana obeyed, slipping into the corner beside the stove, her shawl pulled tight around her shoulders. Minutes passed. Then the first shadow appeared beyond the tree line. 3 riders this time, moving slow, rifles across their saddles. Eli took a deep breath, bracing the rifle against the doorframe. If they step past that fence, they're done. Ayana's eyes stayed on him, calm but burning. You don't know them. I don't need to. The riders didn't come closer. Not yet. They circled once, scanning the clearing, then turned back toward the ridge. Maybe scouting. Maybe waiting for night. When they disappeared, the silence that followed was worse. Eli lowered the rifle, shoulders tight with exhaustion. They're smart. They'll wait till dark. Ayana's voice was barely a whisper. You shouldn't risk this for me. He turned to her, eyes hard. Too late. The firelight flickered across her face. Her expression softened, just slightly. You're a fool, Eli Boone. Yeah, he said with a weary grin. That's what my wife used to say. Something in the way he said it made her look at him differently. Less like a stranger, more like someone carrying his own kind of wound. When night fell, the wind died. The world outside went still, heavy with waiting. Inside, Eli set another log on the fire and sat near the door, rifle resting across his knees. Ayana moved closer, drawn by the glow of the flames. She sat on the floor a few feet from him, her hands clasped in her lap. You ever think about leaving this place? She asked quietly. Every day, he said. But the world out there's meaner than what's in here. She nodded slowly. The world I knew is gone. He looked at her then. Really looked. At the tired strength in her face, the scars, the quiet fire that wouldn't die. I don't think it's gone, he said. Just hidin'. For a long while, they sat without speaking. Then, as if pulled by the same thought, they both turned toward the sound of distant thunder again. Hooves, faint but certain. Eli's jaw set. He stood and walked to the door, checking the rifle one last time. Ayana rose too, limping slightly, her shadow long across the cabin wall. They're closer now, she said. He nodded. Yeah, but so am I. The firelight glowed between them, soft and golden. She stepped closer, her voice low. If they come tonight, you'll die for me. Eli looked down at her, his face half lit, half shadowed. Maybe. But if I don't, then I'll die remembering that I ran. Something broke in her then. Some wall that had held too long. She reached out, her hand finding his arm. He didn't pull away. Outside, the wind began again, carrying the faint howl of coyotes. Inside, they stood close enough to feel each other's breath. No words, no promises. Only the sound of the storm returning and the quiet understanding between two people who had stopped running. When lightning flashed through the window, Ayana whispered, You don't even know my name. Eli's voice was rough, almost tender. Then tell me. She hesitated, then said softly, Ayana. He repeated it, as if testing its weight. Ayana. Outside, the thunder rolled again. Inside, Eli Boone's world shifted. For the first time since he'd buried his past, he wasn't just fighting to survive. He was fighting for someone else. Dawn broke over Lone Hollow like a blade of fire cutting through mist. The storm had passed in the night. but its echo lingered in the wet hush of the land. Smoke from Eli Boone's chimney curled up into a sky too calm for what was coming. He'd been awake for hours, sharpening his knife, checking his rifle, listening for hooves that would surely come. Ayanna moved quietly behind him, her shawl pulled close around her shoulders. She had slept little, her dark hair tangled, her face drawn but steady. When Eli turned, their eyes met. Two people who already knew the morning would not pass easy. "You think they'll come?" she asked, voice low, calm as running water. "They're already here," he said, glancing toward the ridge. "Men like that don't ride this far to turn back." Ayanna crossed the small room, her limp nearly gone. "Then let me go. They want me, not you." Eli looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "You walk out that door, they'll take you, and I'll still be dead inside." She frowned. "You don't even know me." He adjusted the rifle strap across his shoulder. "I know enough. You're someone the world's trying to break, same as me." Outside, a crow cried once, sharp and lonely. Then came the sound he'd been waiting for, the slow grind of hooves in mud, the creak of leather saddles. Eli stepped to the door and eased it open. 3 riders emerged from the tree line, sunlight glinting off their rifles. Wade Cutter rode in front, the scar down his cheek white as chalk. Behind him were Jed and Rafe, rough men with eyes like snakes. Clay, the youngest, hung back near the ridge, scanning the woods. Ayanna stiffened when she saw them. Eli could feel the air change around her. Fear, yes, but also anger. Cutter reined his horse to a stop, spitting into the dirt. "Mornin', Boone. Heard you been keeping company that don't belong to you." Eli stepped out onto the porch, rifle loose in his hands, but ready. "Ain't keeping anyone. Just found a soul half dead in the canyon. That's all." Cutter smiled, thin and mean. "That soul happens to be worth a bounty to men like me. So why don't you step aside and let us take what's ours?" Eli's voice was steady. "She ain't yours." The scarred man leaned forward in his saddle. "You forget who you're talking to, old soldier. I know your kind. Men who crawl into the hills 'cause they can't live with what they done. Don't make me add your name to the list." Eli didn't flinch. "You'll have to write it in your own blood." Cutter's grin vanished. He nodded toward the cabin. "Bring her out." Inside, Ayanna watched through the crack in the door, heart pounding. She could hear the tremor in the horse's breathing, smell the gunpowder and sweat carried by the morning wind. She saw Eli, alone on the porch, shoulders squared against 4 armed men, and something inside her broke, some wall built by years of running. Cutter raised his rifle. "Last chance, Boone." Eli's voice was calm. "You take one more step, you'll wish the storm had drowned you." The moment stretched like a held breath. Then, from the trees, a bird startled, a flash of wings, and everything exploded. A gun cracked, the sound tearing through the hollow. Cutter's shot missed wide, kicking up dirt near Eli's boots. Eli fired back once, clean and fast. The bullet struck the ground between the riders, close enough to make Jed's horse rear. "Back off," Eli barked. "You got your warning." But Cutter wasn't a man who took warnings. He swung from his saddle, shouting orders. "Fan out! He ain't keeping her!" Eli moved for cover beside the porch post, reloading by instinct. He'd been a soldier once, and it showed. The calm, the efficiency, the way his hands never trembled. Bullets whined through the air, splintering the porch rail. Ayanna dropped to her knees inside, pressing her hands over her ears. Then she saw the rifle Eli had left propped against the wall. The second one. She grabbed it. Outside, Cutter crouched behind a stump, shouting to Jed and Rafe. "Flank him from the left!" They moved, crouched low, thinking they had the upper hand. But Eli knew the ground better than they did. When Jed broke from cover, Eli's rifle barked once. The man fell, cursing, clutching his arm. Rafe froze, hesitating just long enough for a sound to split the air behind him. A rifle shot from the cabin window. Ayanna's shot. It hit the dirt at his feet, but the message was clear. She could fight, too. Cutter snarled. "You damn fool, she's armed!" He fired again, the bullet grazing the post near Eli's head. Splinters flew. Eli ducked, chambered another round, and fired back, hitting Cutter's hat clean off his head. The scarred man cursed and took cover again. The gunfire echoed through the hollow for what felt like forever. Then, the shooting stopped. The only sound left was the crackle of the fire inside and the slow, labored breathing of men who hadn't yet given up. Eli stepped off the porch, rifle aimed. "It's done, Cutter. You and what's left of your men ride out of here, or you don't ride at all." The bounty hunter glared at him, blood running from a cut on his cheek. "You think this is over, Boone? You just bought yourself a war. Then I'll build a fence around it," Eli said. "Now go." For a long moment, Cutter didn't move. Then he spat again, his smile gone, replaced by something colder. "You ain't worth the bullet. Not today." He swung into the saddle. "But we'll be back. The girl's worth too much to leave to rot beside you." Eli didn't answer. He just watched as Cutter signaled his men. They turned and rode off, slow at first, then faster, their silhouettes swallowed by the trees. The silence that followed was heavy, full of smoke and the smell of gunpowder. Eli lowered his rifle, breathing hard. His shoulder burned from a graze, but he didn't notice it until Ayanna came running out. "Eli!" She caught his arm, eyes wide. "You're hurt." "Just a scratch," he said, though the blood had soaked through his sleeve. She tore a strip from her shawl, pressing it against the wound. Her hands shook, but her voice was firm. "You didn't have to do this." He looked at her then. Really looked. The fear, the relief, the fire still burning behind her eyes. "I told you," he said softly. "I'm done burying people I care about." Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears away. "They'll come back. Let 'em," he said. "I ain't moving." Ayanna stared at him for a moment, then reached up, her fingers brushing his jaw. "You're a stubborn man, Eli Boone." He smiled faintly. "Guess I am." The morning wind picked up again, carrying the smell of wet pine through the hollow. Eli looked toward the ridge. Empty now, except for the echo of what had just passed. When he turned back, Ayanna was still watching him, the firelight from the cabin flickering in her eyes. "You risked everything," she whispered. He touched the hand still resting on his arm. "Wasn't a risk," he said. "It was a choice." Inside, the fire crackled, warm and steady. Outside, the land lay scarred but still, as if holding its breath. For the first time since the war, Eli Boone didn't feel like a man running from ghosts. He felt like a man standing for something. Someone worth dying for. And as Ayanna's head rested against his shoulder, he whispered the only truth that mattered. "They'll come again," he said. "But next time, I won't be alone." The night faded slow over Lone Hollow. Smoke still hung in the air, thin ribbons twisting above the cabin where the gunfire had ended hours ago. The dawn was the kind of quiet that followed blood, the kind that made a man listen to his own breathing just to know he was still alive. Eli Boone sat on the porch steps, his shirt torn and sleeve stained dark where the bandage wrapped his shoulder. His rifle leaned against the rail, still warm from the fight. Across the valley, the first light broke through the trees, painting the ridge gold. Inside, Ayanna moved softly, the floor creaking under her bare feet. She had spent most of the night tending to him, washing the wound, stoking the fire, sitting by his side when the fever tried to climb. Now she stood in the doorway, watching him. "They're gone," she said quietly. Eli nodded. "For now." She stepped outside, the morning air brushing her hair across her face. The land smelled of rain and gunpowder, but also of something clean, almost new. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. "Men like Cutter always come back," he said. "But I reckon he'll think twice next time." Ayanna looked out across the valley. The sun had just cleared the ridge, warming the frost that clung to the grass. "You risked your life for me," she said. Eli's jaw tightened. "Ain't the first time I've risked it," he replied, "but it's the first time it meant something." She turned toward him, her eyes softening. "You didn't have to." He shrugged, the gesture rough but honest. "Maybe not, but I was tired of burying people I should have saved." The words hung there between them, raw, unvarnished, true. For a while, neither spoke. The wind picked up, bending the grass like waves. Somewhere in the distance, a hawk cried out, circling high above the hollow. Ayanna sat beside him on the steps. Her shawl brushed against his arm. They sat there together, watching the valley wake. Later, Eli hitched the horse and hauled water from the well. Every movement sent a sharp ache through his shoulder, but he ignored it. Pain was part of life. It reminded him he was still standing. When he came back, Ayanna was sweeping the cabin floor, moving slow but steady. She'd folded his blankets, cleaned the table, even patched the torn curtain by the window. "You don't have to do that," he said. She smiled faintly. "Maybe I don't, but it feels good to fix something." Eli stopped, his eyes on her, a quiet pride stirring in him he hadn't felt in years. "This place never looked better." "That's because it's been lonely too long," she said. Her words hit deeper than she knew. He turned away, hiding the small smile tugging at his mouth. When she finished, she set 2 cups of coffee on the table and motioned for him to sit. "Drink. Doctor's orders." He chuckled, easing into the chair. "Didn't know you were a doctor." "I'm not," she said, "but I know what keeps a man alive." They drank in silence again, but it wasn't the uneasy quiet of strangers anymore. It was the kind shared between people who'd seen each other's worst and didn't need to fill the air with talk. Around midday, Eli saddled the horse and checked the ridge. No sign of riders, no smoke trails. The land stretched wide and empty under the sun. Still, he kept one hand on his rifle and one on the reins. When he came back, Ayanna was sitting by the graves behind the cabin, the 2 wooden crosses he'd carved years ago. She didn't speak when he approached, just brushed her fingers along the edge of the wood, respectful, reverent. "They were your family," she said softly. He nodded. "Martha and Jacob. Fever took 'em when the snow came early one year." Ayanna bowed her head. "I'm sorry." Eli's voice was low. "I used to talk to those graves every night. Ask why God let 'em go and left me here. I stopped getting answers a long time ago." She looked up at him. "Maybe he was waiting for you to listen again?" He frowned slightly, not out of anger, but because something about her words unsettled him, like truth often did. "I don't know about that," he said finally, "but maybe he sent a storm for a reason." Ayanna rose to her feet, standing close enough that he could see the light in her eyes. "Storms wash the world clean," she said. "Sometimes they bring us where we're meant to be." For a heartbeat, neither moved. The air between them felt alive, humming like the land after lightning. Eli took a slow breath. "You plan on staying?" She tilted her head. "You want me to?" He met her gaze, steady and sure. "Yeah," he said. "I do." A smile touched her lips, small but certain. "Then I'll stay." That evening, they rebuilt the fence together. Eli held the posts steady while Ayanna packed the earth around them. Their hands were rough, their clothes smeared with dirt, but the work felt good, like building something that might last. When the last post stood firm, Eli leaned against it, catching his breath. "You work harder than most men I've known." She grinned, wiping sweat from her brow. "Then you've known the wrong kind of men." He laughed, a deep, honest sound that startled even him. It had been years since laughter came easy. As the sun dropped behind the ridge, painting the sky in streaks of red and gold, they stood side by side, looking out across the hollow. "Tomorrow," Eli said, "we'll ride to the river, see if there's a better spot for fishing. Maybe start a garden by the cabin." Ayanna nodded. "And if the riders come back?" He looked toward the horizon, jaw firm. "Then they'll find we ain't running." When night fell, they sat by the fire, the cabin warm and quiet. Ayanna traced the outline of the beadwork she'd been mending. bright colors stitched back into torn cloth. Eli whittled a piece of wood into something that almost looked like a dove. She glanced at him. "You ever think about what comes next?" He looked up. "You mean after this?" "Yes." He turned the small carving in his hands, watching the firelight dance across it. "I figure I'll wake up, chop wood, feed the horse, fix whatever's broke, same as always. Only difference is I won't be doing it alone." She smiled. "That sounds like a good life." He nodded. "It's enough." Outside, the crickets began their slow, steady song. The land that had once felt haunted now felt alive. Ayanna leaned back in her chair, her voice soft. "You've changed, Eli Boone." He looked at her with a faint grin. "Maybe. Or maybe I just remembered who I was before I gave up." The fire burned low. Ayanna rose, stepped to the door, and looked out at the moon rising over the valley. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Eli joined her, resting one hand on the frame. "Ain't it something? Whole world out there, wild, dangerous, but real." She turned to him. "You think there's a place for us in it?" He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "If there ain't, we'll make one." The moonlight spilled across the floor, touching the rifle, the bed, the table. Ordinary things turned holy by the quiet. For the first time in years, Eli Boone felt like a man who could breathe again. The ghosts were still out there, but they no longer owned him. Ayanna slipped her hand into his. "You should rest," she said. He smiled, the lines around his eyes softening. "Yeah, tomorrow's a big day." They stood there a moment longer, watching the land stretch endless beneath the stars. And as the fire died, Eli Boone whispered into the stillness, more to himself than to her. "Maybe this is what livin' feels like. Now tell me, folks, if you were Eli Boone, would you have stood your ground or let her go? And if a storm like that came for you, would you run from it or thank it for leading you home?"